Hello, good morning. Welcome, everyone. As you start coming on in, it is Friday morning and not my normal day for a show. Um, but I was going to get an extra one in today with my good friend, Sharad Swaney from Centered America. So, good morning, everyone. I'm Nick Paro. This is the Sick of This Show, and today's episode is Radicalization Pipelines. Good morning, everyone, as you come in the audience. We're streaming on YouTube, Substack, and Twitch today. Um, and so, welcome, Sharad. How are you today, my friend?
Good morning. I'm doing very well. Today has been kind of a crazy start to the day. Trade talks
Yeah,
with Canada fell through, Midas touch, all the stuff's going on. But I'm prepared to talk about what's radicalization pipelines. I think it's a big topic. Me and Gavin at Center America have been talking about it for a while now. It was one of our main messages that we wanted to start when we started Center America was tackling the young men that are getting into this radicalization.
yeah, and That's one of the reasons I really like. That's actually one of the reasons I really like the work you guys are doing, is because one of your focuses has been on colleges and things like that, and how you can fight back almost against it as an anti-turning point, or
Yeah.
uh, the alternative to a turning point is a pro-democracy and real centered discussion that isn't centered on moral differences of personhood or radicalization, but on like real ideas. And so I want to go into those because with you this morning, but I do want to touch on something first. I
Yeah.
want to touch on the Midas touch um, thing, because yesterday I started talking about it in a way, and then Shane helped blow it up and spread the word a little bit more. And then an hour ago, the Midas Touch Network responded to one of Shane Yurick's posts about um, about our responses. So yeah, let me explain all of it, Lefty Prof. I'll give a little bit of info, and then we're going to move on. Once I want Sharon's opinion on it. We have a quick discussion, and then we'll move to our next conversation piece, which is our radicalization pipelines. Um, so the destruction of the East Wing of the White House. This is where this is all stemming from. Is the uh, dictator in charge of the U.S. government right now destroyed the entire East Wing of the White House without any permits, permission, oversight of any sort, doing multiple felonious acts and um, implicating a ton of people in felonies. The Our response to that was, there is nobody filing lawsuits. I'm not a lawyer. I cannot do that. I cannot file lawsuits like that. Like, I don't have that background. But there are major networks that we have supported that do active work, typically for pro democracy or democratic party level messaging. A lot of times, it seems nowadays, um, was we are calling out the Midas Touch Network as to why they did not have a coordinated response as a bunch of lawyers. Why couldn't they have a coordinated response with those who are still currently practicing law to proactively and preemptively prevent things like the destruction of the White House? Um, and so I'm going to show on the screen here, real quick, Shane's um, message that he put out. Um, and before I do that, we're going to welcome Gavin on as well. Good welcome, Gavin. How are you today? Gavin Favor.
Good. How are you doing, Nick?
I'm I'm doing good. We're
Awesome.
renting a little bit right now on Midas Touch's response to Shane Urick, um, on calling them out for not doing actual active engagement. Um, and an hour ago, the Midas Touch Network responded to Shane Urick in a thread on a note, and I want to show it. And I want y'all's opinions on it before we get into radicalization pipelines, because I'm a little pissed off that
Okay.
they're not doing shit that's actionable and meaningful. They're just getting a lot of money, and we don't know where it's going. So, good morning, Gavin. Welcome, my friend. It's good to see you.
Thank you,
with
Nick.
us.
It'd be a big day.
It's going to be a fun day. And I mean, they have a host to respond to Kat in the chat. They have a host of people who are different lawyers for different subjects, but they also are like really intelligent men and women who work there who could have coordinated with others in those professions. Like, I'm asking why they don't have a war room. Like, why are they not prepared for this? Why is there no preemptive action? Why are we always on the defense instead of the offensive? So here's what Shane wrote, and I'm going to put the link in the chat as well, so anybody can go to it. I'll even put a QR code up for the link itself here in a second, and we're going to talk about this. Let's show so everyone can click on and get to Shane's and like and share his. I'm going to restack it right now. Like and restack comment is Shane said, "I'm sick to my stomach. I'm appalled by the lack of action by people who were supposed to be leaders to fight for us. Midas Touch Network, I cannot begin to describe the level of your failures. The East Wing lies in ruins and you did nothing. For $10 a month, hundreds of thousands, maybe millions support you. And of all things, you could not mobilize a network of lawyers to file a suit. At minimum, you can begin preparing a class action lawsuit for the people to punish the companies and president involved. It is time for Trump v. the people of the United States." So before we get into Midas's response real quick, what do you guys think of Shane's message? Because I 100% agree.
Look, I think that something we have to note is that we have smaller platforms. That doesn't mean we're not powerful, but we have smaller platforms, and we are boosting, independent media, action steps, independent journalism. We're doing the whole 9 yards. People that have larger platforms like Midas Touch, like Aaron Parnas, should be taking those legal action steps and even amplifying them bigger than we can. If we're doing the work at a small scale, they should be doing it at a large scale. And we're seeing that that is not what's going on. Midas Touch not putting in those legal action steps is absolutely appalling. So I agree with Shane.
Yeah. Like what Sharad said, we all are smaller, independent organizations, whether that's Banner and Backbone or Senate America, and we can do the best that we can to, amplify what's going on, but we have to allow these larger corporations, like what Sharad said, to kind of take the driver's seat here and help us through this situation.
And look, I've always been a proponent of it's not top down, but Midas Touch has been perceived as being for the people. And so now that they
Yes.
have this huge platform, it seems like we're trying to, we should be able to depend on them because they have said we could depend on them. And now they're not letting us depend on them. And so we, as smaller platforms, have to take up that work that they are not doing. They have the platform to be able to do it, and they are not doing it. So that's something.
They don't only have the platform; they have the resources as well,
100%.
right?
They're lawyers. They should have a team. They should have a war room, like you said, Nick. It's absolutely appalling. So,
yeah, like to me, it's a failure on their part to actually action on the things that they said. It's not about. I don't distrust the news Midas Touch provides us. That's not what we're saying, and we're not, and none of us are saying unsubscribe from them. I'm saying maybe if you're a smaller person who has a limited fund, and this is Nick Paro talking, not anybody else. This is my opinion on this. Is if you have limited funds and smaller funds, and they're going to let us down by not actually doing the work of putting together this legal team and organization that could have actioned prompt, like boom. They could have literally had someone there with a cease and desist letter before the bulldozer hit the fucking wall. Like they could have had it there weeks ago. Cease and desist. We need to understand why you're putting up all this construction equipment and how exactly the plans. They could have had lawyers available to do those things. Instead, they're sitting on their network going, "Here's how a lawyer should do it." Okay, then write the fucking brief for a lawyer, hire one, and do it. But if you're not going to do it, smaller platforms like us who are actually trying to do the work, like Centered America, who is putting together care packages and putting out real tangible things for people who are in need and giving back to the people who actually need support, and not holding that money and just hoarding it. They're not dragons at Centered America. When you get too much gold, you become a fucking dragon and you just start hoarding it. Centered America is giving money back by giving care packages to people, tangible things that are going to help. But Midas Touch, your biggest tangible thing you could do is you're a network of fucking lawyers. Act like it. Like, act like you were lawyers one time and write lawsuits, write legal briefs. Do more than just go, we're a news network. Okay. Banner and Backbone's a news network. But Nick Paro, the individual, can do other shit. Like, so
exactly. I also think
Yeah.
like if people are putting money into these publications, just like people put money, we get paid subscriptions. We're gonna do everything we can with that, funding. Being able, Nick, you go on live like almost every single day. You have designated times. You're talking to the people. You're figuring out action steps. You did a whole 3 hour, I think it was 3 hours, 3 or 4 hour live on No Kings, covering that and making sure that you keep people actionable. We were preparing people for the protest. They are not doing that. But here's the thing. We are doing everything we can with the resources we have. They should be doing everything they can with the resources they have, which is much larger than our platforms. We can only do so much. They can do so much more with the funding that they get.
Yeah.
Exactly. And there's two components. One of that being, amplifying independent journalism, amplifying the news. And that's great, right? That's what we need right now. But what we need more than that is actual physical change and attempting to do something to benefit the people who have been supporting you for years, right? And that's what we're trying to do back at Centered America, is give what our amazing community all over the nation has allowed us to give, right? All of you guys, we can't do what we do without you. And, thanks to our amazing, amazing community here, we've been able to do so much good, so much tangible good to so many different communities.
Yeah.
And they should be doing the same.
Yeah, and it's like one of our subscribers said in the chat was legal AF does keep us updated on the legal news. I'm not complaining about the updates that they provide us on news and the information they give us in any way. I love the information. I'm glad they do it.
Yeah.
We need them to do that. We're asking them why they didn't have an active plan in place to go on offense. They're on defense. They keep saying, oh, the Democrats are always on defense. Everybody keeps saying the Democrats are always on defense. Well, fucking go on offense. You go on offense by having a war room of people who are prepared ahead of time to file lawsuits with pre-prepared lawsuits and things written out. They can do that. They do it all the time. Lawyers do that all the time, is pre-write like simple lawsuits. Like the framework of a filing is just a structured document. Like they could have had all of this ready, because if if Gavin and Sharad and I can think of the idea that, oh, the ballroom is coming, and this is where they're going to put it, and oh, it looks like they'll probably demolish the East Wing in the process. If we can think that simply of an idea, and we're not lawyers, they can do it too. If it took Shane 10 minutes maybe to find the 3 laws that were violated, like federal statutes and laws that were violated, and flooded the inbox of the company doing it. Midas Touch didn't do that. Midas Touch didn't restack Shane's work. We restack their work. Why aren't they restacking ours? Why aren't they restacking the work of people who are actually putting in the effort and giving real content back? So I'm
Well,
not going to
I want
read
to.
Shane before I'll interrupt just for a second before we go on, just so that I can move the screen down. I'm not going to read Midas's response other than our job is to be a big megaphone. No, the fuck it's not. It's to be more than that. I will not play their
And even
video.
if it is, you can do more personally. You know, I like what you said, Nick, where, you know, you have Banner and Backbone, but you are also Nick Paro. And that's a great point to make, right? You know, if you're committed to the development and rebuilding of this democracy after this administration shreds it to pieces, you know, you can't just hide behind that shroud and say, hey, you know, we're just a big megaphone here at Midas Touch. You know, be something bigger than that. Be something that the people can be proud of supporting. And, you know, I don't denounce anything that they do with the news. Like you said, I mean, they're a great, responsible news organization that provides adequate news for the situations constantly happening. But, you know, we'd like to see more out of these individuals at Midas Touch.
And I want to address some comments in the chat, because I really care about these comments. I think that these individuals, their voices matter, and I want to address them. So Lynn and Cheryl, what you're saying about Dems fighting Dems, that's how we lose. What you're saying about infighting makes us look weak. We are not saying that what Midas Touch is doing is completely something we shouldn't support. We agree. I mean, we love independent journalism. That's what we do at Centered America. The problem is that we need to keep democratic messaging and progressive messaging cohesive. And when you have billionaires, when we condemn billionaires, when we condemn oligarchy, when people in our own party or when people with our same views are not utilizing their resources to actually do something for us, we have to say something. Even though we can, you know, love that they are reporting on the East Wing or love that they are giving that journalism to us, they can't just be a megaphone if they have those resources. And that's what we've been fighting for. No Kings is against these billionaires. No Kings is against hoarding money and taking it away from the people. It's putting that and using it for the people. And it's not just infighting. It's not just trying to fight back Dems versus Dems. It's we need to hold everyone accountable. And if we don't do that, we can't actually properly fight back against the Trump administration. It's the same thing with Graham Plattner that we were talking about. How can we support someone with a Nazi tattoo? This guy's running in Maine. How can we support someone with a Nazi tattoo when we are fighting back against Nazis? It doesn't work. There's no cohesive messaging there. And that's something that we support here at Centered America, is that we want to reform democratic messaging. Yes, start with Congress, not independent media, but both. We have to hold both accountable. And if we can't have cohesive messaging, none of it works.
Yeah. And it's to answer the question some was asked was, why are you expecting them to tell the future? Did anyone know what they were doing? I'm not asking them to tell the future. I'm asking them to plan for the future. I worked in intelligence collection while I was in the U.S. Army. You collect intelligence and you plan for the future with best possible guesses. They could have made a war room to plan for these types of events. So yes, I'm expecting them to tell the future by doing their fucking jobs and using their brains as lawyers to come up with legal arguments to defend against stupidity. Because that's what they're doing. They keep telling us they know what he's going to do and how he's going to do things, and this is what their plan is. Okay, well, read Project 2025, Midas, and fucking put lawsuits together that counter every single step of that plan and file them. That's what we're asking. We're asking Midas Touch to use the money that they are accruing, a lot of it, to good use, because that's what we're demanding. That's what we keep demanding, is where do we spend our money? How do we spend our money most effectively? And if they're just going to hoard it, it's not effective. They're just becoming the billionaires themselves. So yeah, I am being sensitive on this because it impacts me, because I'm an independent journalist on the left who has supported Midas Touch for 2 years now, and I want my money going to a good place and a good reason, not just for somebody to gain wealth. I want it to save my democracy. So yeah, I'm demanding more of them because you all demand a lot of me. I should demand even more of the bigger networks.
And, I'm gonna, bounce off of that. Nick, I think that we can't be surprised anymore what Trump is doing, right? And
Yeah.
this whole independent journalism can't be leading with surprise breaking news. It has to lead with, we knew this was going to happen. Here's the action steps. Because Trump is predictable. We can't say that we're surprised by anything he's doing. Project 2025 is being actively implemented, even though he lied about it during his campaign. He actively said he's separated from Project 2025, and then he just tweeted that Russ Vought, he's working really closely with Russ Vought. So we know that this is what's going on. We can't be surprised anymore. And Midas Touch and Aaron Parnas, yes, I love that they're, independent journalists, but we can't lead with breaking news, be surprised. No, we're not surprised anymore. Now it's time for action. And I think a lot of you in the chat want action. A lot of you want those action steps. And the biggest thing we can do is urge these organizations to take action. That's what we do.
And you can't argue that Trump isn't predictable when they literally handed us the playbook. I mean, Project 2025 is a written out description of what they are planning to do with this term. And to say they're not predictable, to say that they don't know what's going to happen next, is simply just a misstep and not true. I mean, seriously, they have the playbook that we can read at any time. And I agree with what Nick said. Read every single step in that plan and come up with a legal defense for it and file it, right?
Yeah.
Or give the money that you're making to an organization that can. If Midas Touch, if it really is the people versus this administration, give those responsibilities off to somebody who can, through financial donating, or something, right? I mean, because this is a fight against right and wrong. And if you're not doing anything but telling us what's wrong, then there is not going to be any progress. I mean, we can do all that we can as small organizations, but we need these larger organizations to step up and fill in those gaps when necessary.
And it's not like we're waiting for them. Clearly, us at Center America, at Banner and Backbone, Nick Paro, Shane, we're not waiting. We're doing the work that we can with the resources we have. And guys, in the chat, I agree with all of you. I think that your voices matter, and I love, seeing what you're talking about Dems infighting. We agree. Sometimes, like, that is definitely.
I mean, that's been a big issue that we've been talking about. Literally, our mission statement is reuniting disillusioned Democrats. There is a clear objective here that all of us are trying and committing to, which is redeveloping the narrative and redeveloping that communication between Democrats, Republicans, and overlooked communities, right? And we can't do that.
And Joan, I agree with you. You've been looking at what the brothers talk about, and they've been getting a little redundant lately. Dimitri, I know you want action. Shane actually put out a whole note basically saying, hey, here's Clark Construction. Here's the construction teams. Here are the contractors. Contact them. He gave, phone numbers. He's flooding the voicemail boxes. We want to try and take action. Of course, we're not going to wait for them. We're not going to wait for Midas Touch to take action, but we also have to urge these large organizations and publications to do something. Even if we respect a portion of what they do, there's a lot larger things that they can actually spend their money and resources and time on. Thank you for everything you're putting in the chat. We appreciate all your comments, and and appreciate all of the feedback that you're giving us. We want to make sure that we're having those conversations with you to really get a cohesive messaging, because all of you are involved. You make these publications. You make Centered America. You make Banner and Backbone. You make Sick of This Shit publications, and we care about what you have to say. But we're all going to talk about it. We're all going to have these conversations because we care about the betterment of America and this country, and we care about what people do with their resources and their money and time. So,
and I think that's a great segue right into the heart of our discussion, is radicalization pipelines and how you guys at Centered America, but also you guys as individuals, Sharad and Gavin individually, you guys fight back against radicalization efforts. One of the reasons I love Centered America so much and the work that you're doing, and I'm actually now, I think, almost $10 freer this month after canceling a YouTube paid subscription, is I'm going to put that money towards Centered America instead, on a monthly basis, because there's actionable results that come out of it. Like, accountability for your actions is a huge part of radicalization, is the unaccountability level and not being held to the same standards or a standard at all. Can you guys introduce to us like who you are and how, like, radicalization pipelines and right-wing pipelines specifically, I don't refer to them as far right or alt-right anymore, they're just right-wing, is how have they touched your lives, and how did that help get you to the place you are now to found Center America and do the work you're doing?
I'll introduce the organization, and I think I'll pass it off to Gavin to talk about the radicalization pipelines, because honestly, Gavin has such intelligent words about this. This is something we talked about from the very beginning. So Centered America is a 501c4 organization. Sorry if you can't see me. There we go. Okay. Centered America is a 501c4 organization defending democracy, resisting authoritarianism, putting out resources for the people to really fight back against this administration. And we started it together. We started it with the idea that we wanted to, sway and reform democratic messaging to be more representative of the people. So I'll pass it back to Gavin, and he can talk about.
Yeah, so the radicalization pipeline of the youth in this country has been very prevalent for about a decade now. And we've started to see a lot of these individuals that get caught up in this pipeline are young men. Now, I'm not saying that they are the only group that does get caught up in this, but it is the overwhelming majority. And as two young men ourselves, we have a better understanding of what exactly is going on with individuals who do get caught up in this pipeline. And a lot of it is just a lack of power or any respect, any feeling of respect, and they don't know where to turn. I've met a lot of people who have fallen down this pipeline simply because there is no authority figure in their life. There's no role model that they're able to look up to and say, this is who I want to represent. This is what I want to be. And most of them try and find that through social media, try and find that online. And what ends up happening is they fall down this pipeline of misogyny, sexism, racism. And that's because these creators are misaligning and confusing these young men into thinking that a lot of the respect is given simply as a, let me see how I can frame this here. A lot of this is simply because they confuse respect with power. And because of that, there's so much confusion within young men where they don't know how to earn the respect of their peers. And they simply try and do that through power and through degrading individuals. And, Sharad and I have met a handful of people that have come up to us and have simply said, hey, this was something that happened to me. I had fallen down this pipeline and I was on a very dark path. But thanks to talking to actual people, I've been able to leave that and find a real base understanding of how to conduct myself as a man in a society like today. Do you have anything to add?
So, yeah,
And
go
I
ahead, Sharad.
and I think it starts at that developmental age, right before
Exactly.
you hit puberty. I think that with the rise in technology being embedded into our generation's life, Gen Z, younger generations, that want for respect, that want for love, that want for you're finally you're starting to want relationships. You're starting to want that developmental stage has a lot of curiosity. It has a lot to do with coming of age, of sex, and so when you are a young person, and you are starting to hit that age, your hormones are all out of whack. And I honestly, I know it's a weird discussion or weird to talk about, but that's really what's going on here, is that these alt-right creators that are confusing respect with power are getting their base by propagandizing on younger individuals. And it's been growing. And those spaces, those technological spaces, feel like a mask that you can hide behind. You're hiding behind a screen and you're able to have that power. And it's because they feel so separated from their peers that they feel like the only place to turn to and the only place to go is MAGA, because they're opening, wide with their open arms, right? They're saying, come here. We want you. We want your support. We want your mind. And that's what's going on.
And I think a lot of it too is it kind of goes back to the way that we're taught to think. And critical thinking relies on being wrong sometimes and asking yourself what you can grow from failure. And what MAGA takes away is that self-reflection. And it's interesting because I've learned to spot this, but they've taken away the idea of self-reflection in critical thinking, and it's very challenging when you're going through the developmental period of your life and learning not only how to think, but how can we apply that in conversations or just in environments in my real life. And sometimes that's frustrating to adapt to. It's a pretty big learning curve for some individuals, and MAGA gives away an opt-out. My opinion's right. I'm always right. I can never be wrong on anything. I have the correct answer on this. And they provided and cultivated a community that does not ask of self-reflection. They don't ask if I'm wrong. They do not consider the other side's optics. And it's a cheap and easy way to think, because there is no, am I right? Am I wrong? What could this look like? How can this be perceived? And that just continues to feed into this pipeline, and it makes it really easy for individuals to confuse being right with being in a community that does not ask more of them.
Oh, I think we lost your sound, Sharad.
Sorry, I was muted.
Alexa, hang up.
Oh, no, you're good. I think one of the biggest things that I get out of what I'm hearing from you guys on this is the ability to have a lack of accountability. Is the alt-right or the right wing or the MAGA pipeline or whatever it is we want to call it, red pill, black pilled, which is even different and another entire topic that we could talk about, and I've talked a little bit about with some folks who have some really interesting. I don't know if you know her cat, her son, and his partner came on on Banner and Backbone and talked about the alt-right pipeline and black pill, and looks maxing, and which is a weird thing, but I think it all fits into this. Is how have you guys grown? Like, what influenced you, both of you, to grow and like face the accountability? Because it is really hard to question yourself at times, especially when you're a young man who's been told you don't ever have to be accountable for anything. Your actions and your words are always unaccountable, and you don't ever have to apologize. Like Graham Plattner, who's had a tattoo of a Totenkopf on his body for 18 fucking years, and now just decided to cover it up because he's running for a political office on the Democratic side. That's not accountability. That's not facing the actions or consequences of your actions. That's just pandering. So how do you feel about things like that? And how does that go against or conflict possibly with the accountability that you guys have learned to instill in yourselves? Because you're younger than me,
Yeah.
which is pointed out as model good behavior, which I will answer the question that was asked in the chat, but I'll do that later on in this discussion. But I want to know, like, how do you feel about modeling it, and how does that conflict with some of the things that you're seeing coming out of the Democratic Party on endorsing a candidate who has a Nazi tattoo on him?
Yeah. So I, for one, have learned that accountability from watching my parents' relationship, them splitting up, and just having, those that addiction in my family. I come from a family of addicts, and I've beat that kind of predisposition for myself. My mother leaving my father at a very young age and saving me and my siblings taught me a lot about family, about how my mother, a NICU nurse, is working 12-hour shifts, night shift, and watching, how my father, who was honestly a very liberal person, very smart, very historically intelligent, lie and wasn't accountable. And it's not just the Republican Party or alt-right movements, it's all around, that we can look up to a person that is supposed to be our influential figure, our father figure, and feel like we are learning non-accountability, not being accountable. And I learned how to be accountable because of watching my peers, of watching how it affected my mother and my siblings, and how I can be better and learn to be a good person. And talking about, the Democratic Party, we need to have that accountability. If we are fighting back against people who are not accountable, having someone as a representative of the people that is not accountable doesn't work. It doesn't match up. You can't go, you know what, let's fight not accountable with not accountable. It doesn't work. You need to have someone that's accountable and for the people to fight back against someone that is not accountable. And what I posted today, Nick, I restacked your post and I said we can't have Nazis fighting Nazis. It doesn't. It's not a thing.
Yeah, it doesn't work. Which Nazi do you want to win? They're both
Yeah.
fucking Nazis.
Exactly. Yeah, great there, Sharad. Responsibility and accountability have been instilled in me in a very young age. I've had the great pleasure to have such an amazing dad raise me for my 19 years here on Earth, and he instilled in me the values of responsibility and accountability through just his actions and showing me how he conducts himself as a man, both socially and as both socially and professionally in the world, and being able to look up to that and seeing how a man conducts himself has really provided me a stable idea of how I can pertain that to my life and how I can continue to grow into a more accountable and respectable young man here. But I would like to add another thing as well. Both Sharad and I are artists. And a lot of being an artist is failure and continuous failure until you finally have success. And, through the trials and tribulations of just art and learning how to be expressive, taught me that failure is not a bad thing. Failure is a way to self-reflect and to learn and to grow. And I think understanding that not only just from an art perspective, but from applying that to your real life and your individuality makes me and makes my peers more. When I say peers, me and Sharad, it makes us more conductive to hearing out other people and understanding that just trying and doing something, whether or not it fails or not, is a great start to something bigger.
And I think also as young men, me and Gavin grew up together. We've had times where we were, not the best of friends or the closest
Exactly.
because of things that had to do with that coming of age. Growing up together, we had fights. We had these periods of who's going to be the most accountable first. And it was kind of this like test of where are we here? Who do we want to be and who do we want to be together? And I think when we started Centered America, we had looked back and realized that we have grown together. And I think having, a support system or having a good role model, which I look at Gavin as a role model, and I think that, he would look at me like a role model. We both have found that with each other. And I think a lot of people who surround themselves with people who aren't role models or surround themselves with people who aren't accountable are not going to be accountable, and it's a lot harder to find that accountability. And so when you are an individual, a young person that's first like real entrance into society is surrounding yourself with these alt-right creators, you're surrounding yourself with these figures in your life that are not accountable and don't want you to be for the betterment of their channel and their platform. And so I think that a lot of it is that these young individuals are surrounding themselves with other individuals who are not in the best interest of them and their emotional expressiveness, authenticity.
Yeah, I think that, I've had the pleasure of growing up with Sharad, and I think that we have one of the greatest developmental assets I've had throughout my entire life was Sharad, and still is Sharad, because we hold each other accountable even when that means an uncomfortable conversation, or when that means taking a step back and trying to figure out how to resolve a problem that we're having. Accountability is not always easy, because it asks yourself to look at the preceding failures and say, how can I grow from this? And the easiest thing that the alt-right pipeline provides is a lack of accountability. There is no accountability on the conservative side, because every single thing that they use as a tool that is supposed to help them just reinforces this ideology that accountability is not necessary. And because you're a male, or because you're in a position of power, you don't have to listen to anybody else. You're the person in the right, and you always will be. And that's just not true. And surrounding yourselves with individuals who hold you accountable make your transition from teenage to adult so much easier, because people, whether you're working a job, whether you're in school, people are always going to hold you accountable for your work and whatever you provide to better society or worsen. And in most cases, we've had young men, and I've seen it at school or in places of work where I've worked before. I've seen men, and specifically younger teenage guys, they begin to have their perfect society that they've cultivated throughout life, because they fell down this pipeline. A lot of it is starting to crumble because people are asking more of them. People are asking now, why? Not just what, but why are you doing this? And it's hard for them because they've never been taught to ask that of themselves. And when people start to ask that of them, they break down and they continue to turn back to these pipelines, similar to an addictive tendency that we've continuously brought up on this show and through our platform, because it's serious. It's a very addictive community to be in, because it's it's easy. Like, for lack of a better term, it's easy to be in these communities that don't ask you to better yourself every single day.
Yeah, and I think it's that rejection, right? When you're growing up and you are starting to, want to get a partner, or you're starting to have crushes, right? As a young man, especially, and you are, getting rejected, right, by your peers. Your immediate kind of your notion is to go, well, fuck that. I don't want anything to do with those people. And who is there with open arms saying, you're right. You hate them. You hate marginalized communities, and you hate women, and you hate who's rejecting you. Is those creators, those YouTubers, that like that space, that clickbait titles space is, you're right. Hate them. Use your voice to hate them because they rejected you, and that's what they want, is to hurt you. And so they kind of match masculinity with, the only way that you're masculine is if you hate. And the best way to rally a bunch of, like, a huge audience, is to get them to hate somebody. And that's what Donald Trump did. That's what Charlie Kirk did. That's what these alt-right Republican extremists are doing, is getting your children, these young men, to hate women in marginalized communities. And that way, they can have that base, and they are stuck
Exactly.
forever in a in an inability to be accountable. And yes, Gavin, what you're saying, being accountable together asks something difficult from you, which is to say that you're wrong, to say, holy shit, my first notion shouldn't be to hate and go, oh my God, I was rejected. It's supposed to be that, why? Maybe,
Yeah.
like that, why? And I think that what you said, Gavin, is just absolutely, like, a beautiful response to that.
I
Yeah.
love that.
And
You
one thing
guys
I'd like
focus
to
on
add
the
real
why.
quick is it's not only the pipelines. This is being reinforced in the house, by, whether it's a parental figure or guardian. We have to address not only the pipeline that's prevalent online, but also that these actions and these thoughts are being reinforced at home as well. I mean, the phrase "the apple doesn't fall far too from the tree" is true, right? Because a lot of this stuff is being taught and or reinforced at home, and I think that there's just an overall lack of accountability in the Republican Party, and especially in this administration. And what's even worse is they're allowing that and promoting that any way possible.
Yeah. And I think the big thing that you guys talked about in all of this is you learn to ask yourself why, or other people why, but you also had each other. And that's a really important, I think, is especially for young men, is to have a male friend who's willing to tell them that they're wrong and why they're wrong, without fear that you're going to lose that friendship, because being truthful to each other can be really hard. And it's also super important because it's the only way to grow.
Exactly. And I think that, speaking from just Sharad and I's personal experience through this friendship, it's so much more rewarding when you come out of the end and you found that, it was hard to say that I was wrong. It was hard to admit that I made a mistake in this friendship, but what you gain out of that, what blossoms out of that accountability and that newfound respect for each other, is worth it. And it's something that you can only experience through accountability, which is such a interesting way to say that accountability and understanding when you're wrong and when you can admit it is the key to happiness. Because truly, I believe that if I and Sharad never got into a huge argument that we had, that our friendship would not be as stable and as strong and as wonderful as it is now. I mean, I have so many great memories with Sharad, and none of that would have happened if we just let our stupid not hate, but this disagreement that we had get in the way of this friendship, and being able to grow and prosper from that has made my life. It really has bettered my life in many
Because
ways.
I mean, it's part of growing up, right? I mean, it's part of those developmental stages of growing up through elementary to middle school to high school, where you're having these disagreements and you don't know where to lie and you don't know who to come to, who to trust, and you're learning all of these boundaries and what you can talk about and what you can't, what you should or shouldn't say. And if you have someone going, nothing's unrestricted, and you can be angry at whoever you want, whenever you want, because you deserve that, and that is you don't have to ask why. That is something that is causing so much harm. We are losing the young male vote. That's one of the biggest demographics that we lost here in the last election cycle, is that young male vote. And it's because they're basing it all off on, there is hope for you, and you do not have to not be angry, and you don't have to ask yourself why. You can
You
always
don't have to change.
stay in that rejection. You can always stay in that, well, if they don't like me, then fuck them, and I want them to, like I was seeing these comments like talking about using protesters as speed bumps. It's this idea that anything you can turn it violent, and they're okay with saying that because there is an unrestricted filter on social media and on technology where they feel like they can get away with all of the hate that they want. And it's because of those developmental stages.
I'd like to add something a little bit to this conversation. Because of this pipeline, it's allowed not only them to not have accountability, but it's reinforced the idea, if somebody is angry at you, if somebody is upset with your actions, then that reinforces that you're right. So I would like to give an example of something that happened that Melissa had brought up. Like, there was somebody who stopped and got out of their truck, and everybody was getting mad at them, and they kind of just gave her like a smug smile. And because that idea of people being mad at you means that you are correct has been continuously reinforced in the Republican Party, because that's how they win votes. And that's how they convince these supporters that they're in the right, by making sure that they think whenever anybody is mad at them, whenever they see anybody, ask them to explain themselves, that means that they're instantly correct.
And that's misogyny. Like, that's pure,
exactly.
Like, it's the same thing in the misogynistic roles. Kate Mann, it's a book by Kate Mann. She wrote a great book on it about empathy, and how even other people surrounding a male figure like Brett Kavanaugh will just make sure that he feels that he is in the right no matter what. And that is also what's going on as well. Anyway, Nick, sorry.
And no, it's perfect, because all of this discussion leads really into the two topics I brought up at the beginning, which is the Midas touch issue and Graham Plattner. So I'm going to first address the Graham Plattner thing. Accountability means taking the time after you get a stupid tattoo when you're a young Marine to go look up what that tattoo means. And if it's a Nazi symbol, get it fucking removed, or take a hot K-bar and burn it off, because that's what other Marines and soldiers do to themselves when they get stupid fucking tattoos. So don't tell me, or don't be in these comments and someone put a really good question out or a really good statement, and that's why I'm commenting on it. So thank you for the statement and the way you put it about it. Is, why do we have to believe him? Why do we give white men the benefit of the doubt on fucking everything? He has a Nazi tattoo on him, people. Start asking him to prove why he's not a MAGA operative. Ask him to hold himself accountable, because it's not accountability to have a tattoo on yourself for 18 fucking years and not know what it means. It means you're willing to overlook plenty of details. And those details are lives when you're in the government. Those details mean people die. So I know every tattoo on my fucking body. I know what they mean, because I'm accountable to what I did, because I put a permanent ink on my body. and I'm accountable to that action. So no, Graham Plattner, you don't get to just have a pass because you're a white dude. And it's a dumb, it was dumb to get that tattoo. But if he also had a male friend who was in the Marines with him, who was probably like, hey, brother, that's a fucking Nazi symbol. You should get that shit removed. He
I was
also knew what it was.
I was reading earlier that he would basically tout it around, basically saying, "This is my Totenkopf. This is the tattoo. This is the
Yes.
tattoo I was wearing." And like he apparently he said it in a cutesy, small little way. That's what the quote was from a friend of his, someone who knew him, said that
So
he
fuck him.
knows what it is and that he is very aware that it was a Nazi symbol. And
I'm gonna just put this out there, giant star David on my forearm. I put it there for a reason, because Jewish people have a history of World War II where on their forearms they would have numbers tattooed into their arm to categorize them and label them for the Holocaust and for concentration camps, which is why I have a giant Star of David. So people who keep telling me, just get over it. No.
No.
Let's take another example here, because accountability matters in this. If Zoran Mamdani had a ISIS tattoo on him and then covered it up right before the election, would all of you go, just get over it? He's changed. Just get over it. It was just a tattoo. It was dumb. He didn't know the meaning of it. No, you would fucking run him out of the country. You would jail him for being a terrorist and run him out of the country, run him out of the Democratic Party, and isolate him, because that is a terrorist organization. But we're so willing to let a white supremacist organization have the benefit of the fucking doubt. That's how we got here.
Exactly. I like what someone said. Yanni said, "A butterfly over your ass is a drunken mistake. This tattoo isn't that." Yeah, and that's what I was saying. Is like, you can grow as a person, but you can't do it in the U.S. Senate. Okay, like especially when it's a Nazi symbol. It's like, what are we? Who are we trying to have us represent us? Yeah. Right? You can't go, okay, well, he's growing as a person. It's just, it seems like that same empathy, like idea of, well, he's just stupid and he didn't know. It's like, no, if you want to run for U.S. Senate, you need to fucking know. That's baseline.
That's the bare minimum. If you want to, have a position of power and have constituents, you have to at least
know what they care about.
Exactly. It takes 5 fucking seconds too. Like, you could just take a picture and be like, what does this mean? What does this tattoo mean? Literally take your fucking phone and go onto Google. Like, they have Google has a platform that you can take a picture of an image and it will show you exactly what it means. He had friends who told him he knew what it meant. I don't buy it as an excuse. It's fucking bullshit. So and there's no accountability if we let him off the hook.
Exactly. And we cannot become what we are talking about here on the podcast today. We have to hold these people accountable because we know the other side won't.
And that's what's going on, is they're trying to push us into an extremist left. Like, they're trying to push us in the same way that they have been pushed. And we have to say no. We have to say we're going to be accountable every single time, and that's how we win. But also this idea of, well, we have to fight back. We have to get someone younger. Is this the best they have to offer? Really ask yourself in the chat.
And anybody in the state of Maine.
Plattner. Yeah.
Is this the best we can do?
Well, this is not.
There's so many people in Maine. I grew up in Vermont. I know people in Maine. I knew this state. Like, it's a beautiful place. There's so many great and amazing people who live there. One of you step up instead. Yeah. Like, I don't live in Maine, so it cannot be me.
Run for office. If you're in Maine right now, fucking run. Like, there's an organization called
What's it going to hurt? The citizenry is going to say, like, yeah, no, we don't want you in the end. What's the worst that can happen right now? Is somebody says no? Like, if you don't have a fucking Nazi tattoo on you, if you're Nazi tattoo free and you got some good progressive values, and
you're already better than the previous candidate.
You know what?
You're better than Graham Plattner.
If you live in Maine, we'll help you fucking run. That's the thing.
Yeah.
We'll help you run. If you want to run against Graham Plattner, fucking do it. Because we
I'll
want to stay accountable. Yeah, because
Come
it's
on.
like, there is more to offer in Maine. There always has to be more to offer. And we can't just be like, well, he's the best we have. it's the best we have. They cannot be perfect. No, they don't have to be perfect, but they also
They
don't have to have a Nazi tattoo.
Yeah, like minimum qualification, no Nazi tattoos.
Yeah.
What the
Like,
fuck are we
stop
doing?
normalizing Nazi symbols.
What are
Okay,
we doing?
we're just a few minutes over, and I have a book
Yeah.
club here in 28 minutes, but I do
Gotcha.
want to finish answering what we were talking about. If you guys are okay for another couple minutes, is the Midas touch thing. Is because somebody said I'm a little bit older, or I look a little bit older than the other two gentlemen here on this call, which I am. I'm at least 10 years older than both of them. And it's my responsibility to model good behavior, such as, say, calling the Midas touch and asking them why they are not doing things like this, or cross-platforming them. I cross-platform their work a lot. I restack, share, comment,
Me too.
post all the
Yeah.
time. Midas Touch has never once restacked anything or liked anything of mine. Why would I invite them onto my show? Why would they invite me onto their
Wait,
show?
what do they mean by
I'm a
model?
small, like, model good behavior of, like, call Midas Touch instead of airing my grievance online and using my
Wait, for us,
platform.
like as in for like to make sure that you're
No,
modeling good for us?
No, for me to model good
Okay.
behavior about not calling Midas Touch out because it feels like I'm attacking Democrats. I fucking am. I hate the Democrats. They don't do shit for us.
Like,
I'm telling Midas Touch the truth. I want somebody to go on offense. They are on defense. Midas Touch is on defense. I'm not attacking Midas Touch. I'm asking them
It's
to do
constructive
the hard
criticism.
work that they need to do and hold themselves accountable.
but also, how do you like reach out to Midas Touch by just
Yeah.
getting in touch? You have to post it on social media. That's the only way
Yeah,
they'll
like-
respond. Also, clearly they did, because Shane, right? If we
Yeah.
just typed a message on the inbox DM, they're gonna be like, we don't fucking care.
But Shane did it publicly.
But Shane did it
And that's how
publicly,
you hold
and they
people
responded.
Shame works well. If we shame rich people and people with power, they do what we need them.
'Cause they
Like,
don't want that
get
getting
mad
out.
at me for organizing a citizen-led petition of the Midas Mighty to
Mhm.
pressure the Midas Touch to do what the shareholders and staker and people who pay for Midas Touch want them to do. That's literally how politics works. Is you get a bunch of people to pressure a group to do what you want. Midas Touch needs to be pressured to do what we want. So stop telling me I'm attacking the left when I'm asking them to do the work that they have the money, power, and knowledge to support. If you're all willing to give me millions of dollars a month, I would gladly do all of that work my fucking self. I'll work 20 fucking hours a day. I've done it before. My wife can tell you how fucking miserable it is, but they're not. They have the power to organize a sustained sit-in march outside of the Capitol with bullhorns every fucking day, asking and reading parts of Project 2025 with senators and congressional members from the Democratic Party that you have never fucking heard of, doing it every day, and one person focuses on one issue, and they're not doing that. I'm asking them to do that. That is how we win.
And
Zev
I mean-
Shalev and Lev Parnas are demanding and asking for sit-ins at the Capitol. Midas Touch has the money to fund it. So why are we so afraid to fund these things? The right funds protest for illegal shit all the time. They get paid protesters all the time. Why are we so afraid to use legal tactics to fund people to allow them to express the First Amendment right in a way that reflects our views? Are we so willing to just capitulate and roll over and obey fascists by not doing anything? Like, they're obeying by not acting.
Lefty Prof is saying, at the same time, we were just explaining how young men are dealing with the shame they feel. Was there any communication before the public shaming? So it's very different, right? There's no, they're not correlated,
Like, how do I
right?
communicate with Midas Touch?
Midas
Like,
Touch is a huge publication, whereas young men are a completely different thing. Young men aren't a publication. So when we're talking to a corporation, an organization, a publication, that's completely different from the other topic. But I agree with what you're saying. Like, we were just talking about shame, but being able to pressure an organization to do what the people want, I mean, all of you guys protested, right? We were all protesting the same shit. We were doing the work, right? Yes, they're an independent organization. We agree with their news. We want them to be independent journalists. We agree with that idea of their organization. But also, if you have the funds, you should do it. And so, Lefty Prof, I agree with you. But also, they're two very different things, and I think you have to treat them very differently. We treat billionaires differently than we do, young men that need help. Going back to the young men thing. Yes, shame operates the way it does, but I think it can operate very differently. Shaming an organization that has millions and billions of dollars is completely different from that shame and that reconciliation and talking and having a conversation with a young man, right? Young men are in developmental stages, and organization should be accountable. It's completely different. Yes, you're a teacher. I was gonna say, Lefty Prof, that for the young men thing, we need more male role models. I like what Gavin Newsom was saying, which is we should have more male teachers filling those roles so that they can be a male role model for young men. Anyway, sorry, that was a little rant, but
No, but like the idea, and I get the public shaming rarely got me there. Unfortunately, for most of us here, I'm going to say something that may sound controversial, is it's not about your feelings. It's about theirs. And the only thing that a lot of these young men respond to is authority figures of some sort. They need to see you as authoritative. That's really what it is. It's not about shaming. It's not about bullying. It's not about being mean. It's about being authoritative. And that's really uncomfortable
it's a parenting
for
style.
a lot of other men to do towards men. This is a men's issue. Like, I'm not calling out any women in the crowd in any way. This is a men specific issue right now, is because men are leading the charge towards fascism, are dragging us and pulling us screaming towards fascism because it's easy for them. It's about accountability. And there's a difference, like Sharad, you just said, is public shaming for an organization. I'm also not really shaming them. I'm asking them to do more. I'm asking them to use the resources that we pay them for good, like to actively protect our democracy, not just report on it failing. Like, okay, cool, you wrote a book, but who's going to fucking read it if we're not here? If we're not here, like, do something.
It's a little
and
funny.
I don't have the money. It's all about money.
Yeah.
I don't have $1 million to file a lawsuit, hire a good lawyer, and have a legal team that would actually win this case.
Yeah.
The Midas touch does.
It's a little funny and contradictory because we in this chat, and I know a lot of you in this chat, are for boycotting organizations. And if the argument is that we should talk to them and have a conversation beforehand and nicely write a nicely worded letter or email to them before we do this boycott, it doesn't get anything done, right? Billionaires, we know, and people with money, we know that doesn't do anything. Writing an email and going, let's have a conversation. Please use our resources to the benefit of the people. What is that going to do? If we're going to get organizations to do what the people want, it has to be public pressure. And we know that. And I know you guys know that. I know you guys in the chat know that as well. Like, we care about boycotts, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. So Lefty Prof saying shame isn't the right word. Yeah, exactly. It's like we have to put public pressure. And that is it's also an organizing tool. Social pressure doesn't have to be a bad thing. It's keeping others accountable. It's like, yeah, it's fucking writing a letter. Just stop giving my money. Exactly, Noble Blend. It's like, we agree and want to boycott these companies. We're stopping giving money to Hulu. That's how we got Jimmy Kimmel back on. If that's what we're going to do, if you agree with social pressure, then you agree with asking and putting public pressure on Midas Touch. We're trying to get Midas Touch to work with us. Yes. But boycotts are the same thing.
I'm not trying to get Midas Touch to work with me. I'm trying to get Midas Touch to work for me. There's a very big difference. I do not want to work with Midas Touch. They have a network. I'm building my own network. I'll gladly work alongside them and support their work and promote their work. But I want them to work for me as the shareholder, as the person who pays for their private business, as the person who pays for parts of them to have a media empire and have the money and resources that could be used. It's not like I totally agree with you, Lefty Prof. I love this conversation and I appreciate you pushing back because we're, like you said, we're not really disagreeing in any way. It's not, we're not shaming them. We're putting public pressure on them as the people who need their power. They hold power and influence that my 5,000 subscriber publication does not. They have millions of views. I have 100,000 a month, like maybe a little more, maybe a little less sometimes on this channel so far. My stuff has gone down, which is really weird because I do a lot of work and my stuff has gone down. And I don't think it's because of y'all. I think they changed how the algorithm works. Is like, but also the idea of like, yeah, we could go to the Ask Me Anything or ask the editor of Midas Touch. So I'm going to go on to a live stream with Ron Filipkowski and Ben Meiselas and demand this without any support, knowing that anyone has my back. That's going to be my first action is I'm going to go tell Ron Filipkowski and Ben Meiselas how to run their network or how to file a lawsuit. No, I'm going to use my platform to build up public support for the idea that Midas Touch is not doing enough with what we are providing them, because in an age of fascism where there's hyper lying and hyper like no information and no transparency, you have to be hyper transparent to do the right things. Sharad and Gavin are super transparent about what they use the money and the funds that you guys provide them with on Centered America. I don't have any funds to use other than what is being paid to support growing this publication and paying myself just enough that my family can survive. Like, I don't take money out of my business, either of them. Banner and Backbone is using money to fund and support Melissa Corrigan and the work that she's doing in independent journalism, just like Gavin and Sharad are supporting Melissa Corrigan. We're supporting someone who's actively like researching, and we're tiny networks compared, millions compared to thousands, guys. Like, that's what we're asking. We're asking them to do the work that they have the capability to do. Not themselves. They don't have to be the ones doing it. I'm not asking Ben Meiselas to go get his bar license back, go back into a courtroom and argue it. I'm asking him to help find the other lawyers and set up that network really, really fast, or it should have been done a while ago to, already pre-do this stuff so the White House didn't get half fucking demolished.
Yeah, and it's like, well, why don't we ask, all the 250 people on here, ask yourself, if you had that platform, what would you be doing with those funds? And if you said, and it's like, we are asking, sorry, before I jump to that, I just want to butt in one more second. I think we are also asking everyone in the chat to also stand with us, right? I think all of you want to keep people accountable. That's why we're having this conversation. That's why you've stayed this whole time on the live. If you can help us keep organizations accountable, it helps. It does. Clearly, Midas Touch responded because they're afraid of that getting out. And now, again, I want to preface, we do support Midas Touch and what they're doing with independent journalism. We just want them to use their resources to help the people as well. Gavin?
Yeah. I was just going to say, we're simply asking them to do what we would do in their situation, right? And I don't think that's too much to ask.
No, I think that's the minimum we can ask. Like, that should be the minimum standard, is if
Centered America
if I was in this situation, what would I do?
Touch, we would have lawyers on the ground yesterday, right?
Yeah.
Like,
I would have had a lawyer Tiananmen Square and standing right in front of the fucking bulldozer with a cease and desist letter signed by a judge going, "You fucking run me over."
If we had that much money, we'd be testifying in Congress right now. We would be doing so much.
I'd be sleeping on the steps of the Capitol.
Why aren't they? They could be organizing all this stuff. Like, there's smaller publications right now that are really trying to do the organization. And I'm not asking you to stop supporting Midas Touch. I'm asking you to reconsider some of your funds. And if you're supporting them on multiple platforms, then maybe you don't have to use that money to help smaller platforms grow and get truth out, such as Centered America, and help them get the truth out and information out. And you guys, I'm going to give you here a minute to reach out or to tell everybody how they can support you in all the ways. And I'll put your QR code back up too, because one leads to Substack, one leads to your website. And I want you guys to sell yourselves, because the work you're doing is really important, and it's really, I think, is going to be really beneficial to actual people.
Yeah. We talk a lot about accountability and tangible progress in the Democratic Party. This is what we're doing right now. Actively, we're currently raising money to develop and build homeless care packages to vets who have been put out on the street, and to individuals who need it and the most in our community, because that's what progress looks like. Even if we can only do a handful this time, I always like to say the first step is always going to be the smallest, and we didn't realize how quickly we'd be able to grow this amazing organization. And this time next year, we may have 100,000 followers instead of just 10,000, right? So I just want to say, before Sharad gets into what Centered America is, I just kind of want to say thank you to everybody watching this live, to everybody who support Centered America, Banner and Backbone, or any of our partners here. You guys are the ones that are enabling us to do this work, and I just want to say thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. And Nick, we support your work too. We became a paid subscriber to you as well. Centered America did. And so we really appreciate your work as well. Centered America, for anyone who's new, is a 501c4 organization defending democracy, resisting authoritarianism, giving people the resources to fight back against this administration. You can find us everywhere, just with Centered America. All of our social media is Centered America. We have pretty good search engine optimization, so you can just look it up. We have a website. We're also basically we're doing a fundraiser, like Gavin was saying, for care packages for veterans and marginalized communities. You can buy a t-shirt, and those funds help support those care packages and giving back to those veterans. We are also giving back independent journalism and putting out actionable resources. So we prepare people for protests. We have tons of different resources for you on our page as well, like a Social Security crisis plan. We're talking about we're writing legislation right now to hold the Department of Defense accountable, and making sure that they are audited and pass an audit. That's something that we want to do. And we're working with Banner and Backbone and Nick Paro and Melissa Corrigan and Shane Urich to really fight back. And that's what we're doing. We want to boost and amplify smaller publications because we're doing the work, and we appreciate all of you. You've made Centered America, and we can't be more grateful. So thank you.
And thank you guys so much for being here. I really appreciate the paid subscription from you guys and the support, but also just the conversations. It's been great to get to know you two, and I can't wait to keep building this relationship with y'all.
Us too.
And appreciate it. And as you guys said, I have two. I'll plug myself here real quick. Is please first become a subscriber with Centered America. Become a paid subscriber if you can. They're amazing. Their work is really important, and I absolutely support what they're doing, and 100% just give them the support I can and where I can in promotions, because it's going to make a difference. And I'm working closely with them on my other platform, Banner and Backbone. Please come support me there. It's a small independent media network that I'm co-founder of with Lawrence Winterman. We work with incredible contributors like Shane Urich, Melissa Corrigan, Ellie Leonard, Walter Ryan, Jacob Summers. We have a book club, Anti-Fascist Book Club, coming up here in 10 minutes with Chris Goldsmith is joining us. Tara Devlin will be there. Hopefully Stephanie Wilson will be able to make it with us as well. We have an incredible crew that comes. So please join us there. Banner and Backbone, it's new small independent media. We're trying to get the word out, and we're civic focused and giving you actionable things that everyday people can do, and things that you can work with. And then finally, come support me here at Sick of the Shit Publications. I'm running a 50% off sale right now for the rest of the month. I am just about at 5,000 free subs. I love to get across that number today and start on our journey to get into 10,000. And please help me get over 200 paid subs as well. I'm starting to near that number. And it's all because of you guys. Like every single one of you, I've been able to expand onto YouTube and Twitch because of everybody here and the support that's being provided. So you all make a difference. So thank you again. Thank you, Sharad. Thank you, Gavin, for coming me. And I look forward to talking to you guys again on Wednesday next week for our normal shows, but also looking forward to just continuing these discussions. So thank you so much, everyone. And as I always say at the end of the shows is let's stop being sick of this shit and let's start doing this shit, which means call people out for their mistakes, hold them accountable, and promote the truth, and demand those who have the power to do something to do it. So thank y'all. I'll see y'all soon.
Thank you.
And join me over on Banner and Backbone here in a couple minutes. Thanks, everyone. Have a great day.